Hello, my name is Stephen Key, and this is the Keyword and Context System made by Stephen Key and Chad Marshall. So before I begin, I should talk about how we divided the work between ourselves. What I did was I made the diagrams for this system and also provided the organizer component while Chad made the rest of the components. So let's look at the diagrams for this system. First off, the sequence diagram. It starts with the user entering input lines into the user interface, and this is turned into an array list of strings, which is passed into the circular shifter. And after everything is shifted, it'll pass in a new array list of strings into the organizer, where it'll be alphabetized, and those alphabetical shifts will be passed all the way back up to the user. Moving on to the component diagram, the first requirement in this component is the input string, and that is required by the user interface, who will pass an array list of strings into the circular shifter, who will pass a different array list of strings into the organizer, and that is the final output. Moving on to the class diagram, there are three classes here: the user interface, the circular shifter, and the organizer. The circular shifter has a shift method, which requires an array list and passes an array list over to the organizer, who has a sort method, which requires an array list and passes an array list all the way back up to the user interface. The organizer component of this system uses two methods. First of all, sort, but within that it also uses a compare method, and I want to talk about this one first. So what I did here was create an array called ref, which sets up the alphabetical order that we would be sorting by. So first of all, a space would go before a little a, would go before a big A, would go before a little b, and so on. And what I did here was compare each string character by character, finding the index of each character. And if the index of one character was greater than or less than the index of another, it would return false or true. And if it reaches the end of one string, I would return whether or not the length of the first string is less than or equal to the length of the second string. Now moving on to the sort method here. Basically, this is just a standard insertion sort, except for the comparison here utilizes the compare method, which I talked about right down here.
Alright, this is the shifter class and input class by Chad Marshall. The shifter class is in charge of circular shifting user input. Here, the circ shifter method removes the first word in a line, shifts all elements to the left, and adds the removed word to the end of the list for all lines in the text box. This is the structure of the GUI. We used JText areas over other field containers because of their versatility. Here is a utility function that prints the array list of strings. And here's our main, which constructs the GUI and starts the program. We have a button called Engage that parses the JText area input into an array lists of strings. You can also see part of the implementation of the requirements for the third part here. Still in the action for Engage, you can see where we pass the data to subsequent filters. For the Reset button, we remove all text from the JText area. Alright, here's the demonstration of shifting, then sorting. So, we have Eclipse open here. Let's start the program. Now notice that these text boxes are relatively small, so whatever is printed here, you can also see it in the console. Engage. Okay, as you can see, it is shifted, then alphabetized. And as you can see here, it's shifted, then alphabetized. Okay, we can go ahead and stop the program and clear the console. Okay, for the third part requirement, we have code snippets that you saw in the action performed, in which we declare and initialize a different list to be passed through the filters. As for the shifter, we use this method to parse an array list of strings to an array list of strings. Then we can use our already made shifter to filter the data, and once more. All right. Now let's do the demonstration of sorting then shifting. For this, let's change a couple things here. First, let's there, and next, let's uncomment this and remove this. All right, let's start the program using the same data as previously. Engage. Now, as you can see, it is sorted then shifted. You can clearly see the circular shift here in the text. And as a further measure, we can also show off the reset button here. All right, now let's go back here. All right, now both of these are inside of a public repository, and they can be found at these URLs here. All right, that's it. Thank you so much for watching.